that's it on the announcements. So now we're going to have our company present. As you'll have noticed, everyone in the room introduced themselves except for one person, because we're going to wait. He's going to have 6 minutes to do that. So Danny Maloney is the CEO and founder of Tailwind. They're an awesome Pinterest analytics company based out of Oklahoma City, and they have an office in New York as well. They're super cool, doing awesome things. Danny's also doing a lot for the tech and entrepreneurial community in Oklahoma City. So we're wanting to build more relationships between Oklahoma City and Tulsa and not have this traditional fighting of who's cooler, because we're all Oklahomans and that's cool. So without further ado, Danny Maloney.
Thanks everyone. Is this on? Volume good? Okay. So I don't know if you can see the slides here, so I'm going to talk to what's up there. I know from the back it might be a bit small. If you are tweeting along, I'm at Daniel P. Maloney. I believe it's at 1 million cups TUL and hashtag 1MCTUL. So feel free to share anything. Keep the discussion going after the fact. Happy to answer any questions. I'm going to give you the 6-minute version of Tailwind's story, what we are, where we're going. But I like to say we're a story of failing upward. So we actually started out of a pivot. In 2011, my co-founder Alex and I had the idea to build a visual search engine for weddings as an easier way to plan weddings. That brides kept telling us they know what they like when they, or they know what they want when they see it. And so we said, okay, let's show them a bunch of pictures and let them pick out what they like. Well, we were getting pretty good traction, and then later that year, this little site called Pinterest began blowing up. And over the course of a few months went from like 1 million to 10 million monthly users, and really became a force not only in the wedding category, but in general across many categories. Ironically, we saw Pinterest at the time as a competitor, but also an enabler. And we began doing a lot of research into how to analyze the traffic on Pinterest for our own purposes to identify brides who were planning their wedding, understand what content would resonate with them, and use that knowledge to promote our own content. And that worked really well. It led to very rapid growth of our user base and our audience month over month. But what we noticed was with the wedding vendors we worked with, the conversation quickly went from tell us about Bride's View, which was the name of our visual search engine, to tell us about what you're doing on Pinterest to find brides. And that was sort of the aha moment for us that there was a much bigger opportunity. So in early 2012, we began testing that idea of, is there a market for people who want to understand how to leverage Pinterest for their business? And we very quickly got a response back from the market that indicated there was an opportunity there, and it was actually much larger than what we were working on. So we pivoted, and Tailwind was born. So what is Tailwind? As Dustin said, we started out in the analytics space. One of the things we realized right away was that people were thirsty for data. They wanted to understand if they were performing well, why they were performing well, what their audience was interested in, topics like that, all of which Pinterest data could tell them. But what we've realized over time as we've grown is that a lot of businesses don't necessarily know how to apply the insights from the data or even to find the insights in the data. And so we're building Tailwind out now to become an actionable marketing suite. So not just here's the data, figure out what to do with it, and let us educate you or help you educate yourself. Instead, it's here's the data, here are some insights from that data, and by the way, you can run self-optimizing campaigns using that data. Or, by the way, you can use this data to curate and create better content, and we're going to help guide you through that process. So that's really, what the next evolution of the company throughout this year is adding additional functionality, such as content curation and discovery, publishing features and promotional features, so it'll become a fully closed marketing loop that starts with data, ends with data, and it just kind of builds on itself. The result, I guess, it's a bit redundant, but if you can see the screenshot, basically you log in, you have an online dashboard to help you visualize the product, and right within there we're integrating all the features, so you can publish, you can find content, you can run campaigns all in the same place that you run your reporting and analytics, and actually access the data. Today we serve over 20,000 brands. That's a highly varied audience, so everything from small businesses all the way up to the largest enterprises in the world. People think of Pinterest and they immediately think retail, fashion, e-commerce. That's definitely a part of our audience, and those are some of the largest industries. But when we analyzed our user base a few months ago, we actually found over 150 different industries represented. So you'd be amazed at the variety of businesses that are using Pinterest for various marketing needs, sometimes external, sometimes internal. Some companies are using it for recruiting and HR and other purposes as well. So it's a pretty varied audience, but this gives you a snapshot of some of the big ones that you might recognize, and we also serve advertising and PR agencies. So it's over 300 agencies at this point, which is a great customer base for us as well. That said, it took a while to get there. So if nothing else, you can kind of see the right-hand graph here of the growth trajectory, and that's covering almost 3 years of time. So the takeaway here is probably the first year we actually had, in hindsight, very little traction. We ended our first year with about 200 users, but that was enough to validate the idea, to help us get a lot of feedback to improve the product. 2013 for us was the beginning of scaling. So from middle 2013 to end 2013, we went from about 1,000 to 10,000 users. And this year, we're continuing to scale. Our goal for the end of third quarter is going to be over 30,000 users. And one really cool thing I like is that we're an Oklahoma-based company. We have an office in New York, but our users are global. At this point, about 45% of our users are outside the United States, and 9 of our top 20 cities are outside of the United States. So it's a global audience that's adopting, which is something that has happened much faster than we expected. And with the last remaining seconds, maybe a couple things to highlight. One quickly is that ultimately we're a data company. We're building a data asset. And so while we're thinking about the marketing use cases right now, longer term, our vision is to get into deeper use cases that are much more valuable. So the example I like to use in retail is if we can help retailers use our data to make their merchandising decisions 1% more efficient, or increase same-store sales by 1% even, for a brand like Target, that's $700 million a year in incremental. Right, so it's enabling others to scale their business to become more efficient and ultimately create jobs and growth.
Terrific, Danny. All right, so now's the time that we get to ask questions, to learn more about what Tailwind does, not only to help Tailwind, but also, it seems like they've had a good deal of success, also to help us learn in our own businesses as well. So if you have a question, just raise your hand, and I'll keep an idea of who's in line. So here we go.
Yeah, how do you get your user acquisition and your revenue model? How does that work?
Sure. If everyone did get the question, how does user acquisition work and how does the revenue model work? I'll start with the second part. So we're currently a subscription-based revenue model. We have different plans ranging from small business pricing up to enterprise level pricing. And at higher level plans, which are more expensive, you get additional features and additional capabilities. So it's an annual subscription for enterprises and a monthly subscription for small businesses. In terms of user acquisition, it's kind of interesting. We still pay to acquire very few customers. Our marketing budget is quite minimal, but that had to build up over time. So there were a couple core tenets to our acquisition strategy. The first one was over-investing in our initial customers. Even if they were only spending $19, $29 a month with us, which doesn't add up to a lot of revenue in the near term, we knew that if we over-invested in those relationships, they really loved the platform and became advocates for us, that would create positive word of mouth, which ultimately would yield growth, and that's exactly what we've seen happen. So word of mouth is our number one customer acquisition driver. The number two customer acquisition driver for us is content marketing, which is a relatively broad category, but it's everything from blog posts to social media to speaking at conferences and just helping educate the community about how to use Pinterest and how Pinterest can impact the business. So we found that to be very effective. And that was an intentional part of the strategy out of the gate, because we realized that Pinterest was brand new. No one at the time, including Pinterest, really understood what Pinterest was or what it was going to become. So there was this educational process that had to happen, and it took a lot of patience to keep investing in market education throughout 2012, throughout 2013, until we started seeing that inflection point when businesses got it, and that aha moment happened, and all of a sudden the growth kicked in.
Question here in the back.
So like you said, I think most people, when they think of Pinterest, think of retail or wedding planning, something like that. I saw that one of the companies that stood there was like the Museum of Modern Art in New York. How would you help a company out like that?
Yeah, so regardless of what type of company it is, we help them in the same way. So we help them learn about their audience. We help them learn what content is or isn't resonating. So any business can run content marketing tests or A/B tests and figure out this type of photography or this type of article or word art over an image works better for our audience than something else. So analytics is where we start with all companies. We provide data, help them learn, help them become better marketers themselves through their own insights. But now it's also adding on the tools that make it more efficient, publishing and scheduling. So if you're a community manager, you don't have to wake up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday if that's when your audience is awake and active. Or if you have an international audience, you don't literally have to be online 24 hours a day in order to share content that appeals to the entire audience, right? The promotional campaign tools make life more efficient, right? So we help all those brands the same way. That said, different companies in different industries will use Pinterest in different ways. So on the B2B side, there are some companies doing a great job, like GE. GE has a great Pinterest profile, right? Not retail, not e-commerce. They have boards full of things like big, awesome machines, right? That you might never get a chance to see in your life, but you can see pictures of them on Pinterest. And when you see it, it's really cool. There are companies like Constant Contact and HubSpot that make great use, so marketing platforms that make great use of Pinterest in sharing educational content. We've seen financial services firms do the same, educating consumers on financial principles, using visual content that helps explain complex ideas in a very simple way, right? So there are different ways to use the platform ultimately for the businesses, but we kind of help them all in a relatively structured way.
So I'm going to try to squeeze two questions in. The first is, what is the sales cycle like at the enterprise level? And how long does it take to, if you're trying to go after a target level customer, what does that entail? And then also, have you seen other analytics companies from other social media platforms try to creep into the Pinterest space, or why have you decided to focus solely on Pinterest?
Great, so three questions there. Okay, so first question, enterprise sales cycle. It is highly, highly varied. We literally have some enterprise brands who email us, call us on a given day and say, I know I want your product, I need it now, I'm starting a campaign tomorrow, can you get me set up in the next hour, right? That's the best case. We love when that happens. It's an instantaneous sale. The more likely case, and frankly, we're still learning here, I should have mentioned, we rolled out our enterprise offering starting in February. So we're about, whatever that is, 4.5 months into our enterprise service. It seems like the more likely case is going to be somewhere in the 3 to 6 month range, from initial contact to actually activating someone and bringing them on board as a customer. That said, we've had some brands that we literally contacted a year and a half ago for the first time, and they weren't quite ready yet, but they remembered us, and now they're coming back and saying, hey, we were impressed with you all then, we'd love to see an update of your capabilities. So it can vary massively. The other two questions, so why Pinterest? It was a combination of a couple things at the beginning. One was just our own experience with the platform showed us there was something there, and we didn't really know what it was going to become. It's been a constant question for us over time. Do you remain focused on Pinterest, or do you begin to diversify? And I'm a very strong believer in startups of learning how to do one thing incredibly well, being the best at it, and just, people are going to come to you because you're better than another platform. And so that's continued to be our strategy. The other interesting thing that's happened over the last couple of years is Pinterest has emerged and formed its own identity as a platform. It's really emerging to become a discovery engine more than a social network. Without getting too much into sort of the network dynamics, Pinterest doesn't try to connect you with other people you know the way that Facebook and Twitter do initially, or LinkedIn. Pinterest connects you with people who share common interests, and it doesn't matter if they're your next door neighbor or your friend from school or someone who lives halfway around the world. And that's a fundamental difference, right? And it ultimately flows through how you have to think about marketing on the platform, how you think about monetizing as a business. And as a result, people are coming to use Pinterest to find what they're passionate about, cultivate their passions over time, and ultimately lead to purchase decisions and vacations and actions and huge home decor projects and things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised as Pinterest matures if they come to be seen more as a competitor for Google than for Facebook and Twitter because of that discovery and search element to the platform. Middle question. So do we see other social media platforms? So we do see social media platforms that are starting to enter the Pinterest space. They've all been itching to for a long time. I guess at this point it's about a month ago, Pinterest formally announced a partner program, essentially a Business Insights API program with 7 named partners. We were one of them. All of the others support other networks as well. We were the only one that was solely Pinterest focused. So our strategy there, just to throw it out, is if we're better and if we really understand the platform better, we know we're going to be able to help businesses drive higher ROI. And we don't believe that a platform that was designed for Twitter, let's say, can be as effective at helping you market for Pinterest. There are too many differences, starting with the fact that it's predominantly visual content to all of the underlying dynamics of how the network actually works. So brands are starting to realize that. We see a lot of companies who will have one core social publishing tool that's kind of the catch-all, but they're beginning to invest in best-in-class services alongside that for each network that they decide is a priority.
Next question here in the back.
Hey, first of all, we love Pinterest. It's really helping our company, so this is really exciting for me. But I know you mentioned Pinterest has some analytics already, and I know for businesses they have some great analytics. So I was wondering, do you have ways to pull other data or analytics, or do you kind of take what's already there and reconfigure it and repackage it so people can understand it and extrapolate on it?
Both. So we offer substantially more analytics than what Pinterest offers natively. They do have a free analytics offering for businesses. I think it's a great tool when you're getting started and you're a new business on Pinterest and you just want to get a general sense of what's happening. What we find is as businesses become more serious about the platform, they begin looking for deeper solutions. And that's exactly why Pinterest partners with companies like us, because they have many users that they have to serve in terms of consumers. Their development resources are generally going to be better spent figuring out how to better serve the consumers, to grow their audience, to produce a deeper engagement, and so forth. So if they can partner out with companies like us to build some of the very specific business-related services, it's a win-win. We get more businesses investing in the platform at a deeper level. That ultimately is going to drive more advertising revenue for them. And on the other side, they get to focus on the consumer, which is really their core mission at the end of the day. So yeah, we offer more. We also show the data in unique and different ways, and we're building these other tools to integrate with the data, so it just becomes part of your workflow more naturally.
Next question here in the back.
What is your long-term strategy for the company? Is it an exit through acquisition, for instance, by Pinterest, or are you looking to add other services and potentially IPO?
Yeah, I don't believe in building a company with an acquisition as the goal. I think you have to build companies with an intention of making them long-lasting, meaningful businesses that contribute to society in unique ways. So we're not targeting an acquisition necessarily in a time frame. It doesn't mean it won't ever happen or isn't a possibility, but day to day we don't wake up thinking about that. We wake up thinking about how we can better serve our customer and how we can expand our services to get a deeper relationship with them. If we do that, if we focus on the user, make the user experience the best possible, the outcome will be better anyway, whatever it ends up being. Yeah, we're not necessarily building to flip, we're building to last.
Question here in the right.
Hey Danny, in addition to building Tailwind, you've also really taken a vested interest in building the Oklahoma City startup community. And can you talk a little bit about some of the programs and like Made in OK, OK Coders and things that you've been doing and why you see that as important to the broader ecosystem and the company as it grows?
Sure, and I'm going to cheat and go back to a slide. So I had a slide in here I didn't get to. That was the 4 things that startups need to succeed. When we started out, we thought it was 3 things, right? So collaborators, you need people who are going to work with you, who are going to be excited about your mission, who are going to want to help solve the goal, who become part of the team and owners in the mission. You need customers, ultimately, because without customers, it's really hard to sustain a business. And you need capital. And initially we thought if we had those 3 things, we would succeed. What we've realized over time is that community is the 4th thing that is the key to getting the other 3. So that lesson came in a few ways. I'll quickly share a little bit about my background. Most of my career has been either in the Valley or in New York. I moved to Oklahoma City about 2.5 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago. And I was honestly a little bit terrified because I didn't know anyone. And I had no idea what the tech community was like. So when I first came to town, my first order of business was get on LinkedIn and start sending as many emails and messages to people as I could, offering to take them to coffee, and just start learning, right? Meeting people, making friends, getting to know the community, understanding what resources were out there. And what I realized, which honestly was quite different from my experience in New York or in the Valley, was people were incredibly receptive to that. They were willing to help. Every coffee meeting I had led to 2 or 3 introductions to other people. And very, very quickly, the strength of the community started showing itself. And I'm really excited to see that's happening now more across Tulsa and Oklahoma City also. We've seen a lot of people from Tulsa coming to events in OKC and vice versa, and that's really cool. From that, a couple tidbits about sort of how it helped our company selfishly. Collaborators, a guy named Greg Starling, really plugged into the Oklahoma City community, close friend of mine now. He was one of the first people I met, and he began giving me a lot of advice on how to recruit in this market and sort of where to find talent. Without that, we never would have found the first employees hired into the company, and we probably wouldn't have survived, right? So that community interaction led to knowledge that I immediately applied. From a customer perspective, one of our biggest initial customers came through an introduction from a guy named Guy Madison, who at the time was running an accelerator program in Oklahoma City. That relationship with that specific customer really helped sustain us in the early days and helped give us a little bit of breathing room so we could start to scale even before raising capital externally. So that was incredibly important to us. On the capital front, I2E ultimately funded our seed round, I should say they led our seed round, but the other half of the investment came from angel investors, the majority of which were based in Oklahoma, both Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And then the remainder actually came from past communities I was a part of, so Boston, New York, and out west. So, in all pieces of our business, community has played a role, but we view that as a responsibility then to give back to the community. So we make our office space available. We've put out open invitations to other startups to use our extra space for free. No one's actually taken us up on that yet. But we have had certain programs like OK Coders take us up on it. So OK Coders is a developer boot camp that is trying to teach people interested in either switching careers or becoming better software developers how to be a professional developer. It's an intensive 10-week program. They use our offices 2 nights a week, and we don't charge them rent or anything. It's just please come in and build a community. Longer term, there's a selfish motive there that maybe we hire some people out of the program, or just having more software developers in the community leads to a bigger community, which in general is going to attract more talent and more capital into the market and help the entire city and state grow. So if you invest in the community, I think ultimately it's going to come back to you in some intangible way that you don't know. But because of that, you have a responsibility to invest back. So that's why we do it. It's already made big differences for us, and hopefully we can make the same thing happen for other startups that are at the stage we were at 2 years ago.
Next question, Brandon.
Hello. Unfortunately for me, a lot of the technical stuff you've talked about is really over my head. So we opened with the wedding industry as an example. I hope this isn't a bad question, but I have a friend here in town who owns an event, entertainment and lighting company, really heavily invested in the wedding industry. So If he came to you for your services with that type of a business, how would he quantify the benefit of what you do for a company like that?
Sure. So there are multiple ways to quantify the benefit. We learned this. So I should say we had some very strong opinions out of the gate of how to quantify the benefit, and what we've seen is different businesses have different goals and different marketing objectives. So that leads to different ways to quantify it. So one of the things that we do is we tie in through a really simple, like 2-click integration with our customers' web analytics suite. So we can pull in traffic data, we can pull in sales and revenue data directly from the web, and we can actually show them, if they're focused on driving direct revenue, this is how many sales you've driven from Pinterest in a given time frame, this is how much revenue you've driven, and tracing it back, these were the sources that led to that revenue, and these were the actions that you took that created revenue. So if the objective is revenue immediately, we provide that sort of tracking. Some businesses, that's not the goal. Some businesses, it's building their profile in the community, generating reach, and just getting their brand name out there so it's known. So we help track those kind of metrics. We help businesses see if and when they're connecting with influential people who might be able to become partners with their business, or might be able to become affiliates or whatever it might be, to help get the word out there on a more consistent basis. So that knowledge can show impact in a more intangible, longer-term way. So I think there's multiple ways to see impact. It ultimately depends on what your goals are. Some businesses just want to grow followers for now. Show me more followers every month, show me more repins on my content every month, and show me I'm reaching a bigger audience, and I'm happy. Because eventually I know that's going to lead to something, that additional exposure and engagement from our customers.
So Danny, finally, as 1 million cups, as Tulsa, as Oklahoma, how can we help you keep going to the next level?
Yeah, so it's the same 4 things, but not just for us, for everyone in the community. If we have a bigger, more successful community, more people are going to want to come work for companies in Tulsa and in Oklahoma City and throughout the state. That's ultimately good for every company in the state, especially since we have an incredibly low unemployment rate and the job market's very competitive. Customers. One of the biggest things that I think we really want to push as a company is just helping local businesses understand digital marketing better and understand social marketing better, not in the hyped up, it's going to solve all your problems in a day type of way, but in a realistic, this is how you integrate it into your company's marketing campaigns over time sort of way. If we do that, it's going to lead to ecosystem growth. Our economy will grow faster. Dollars will be applied more efficiently. It's going to create jobs in the long term. So I think it's a systematic, fundamental thing that we need to do to create customers for tech companies locally. Capital. There's a ton of capital in Oklahoma that's sitting on the sidelines right now, especially from the perspective of the tech industry. People like I2E and others have been doing a great job of educating investors about the tech space, helping create qualified deal flows so that they understand what a good investment looks like, what a not so great investment looks like, and ultimately educating them on how to diversify risk when investing in early stage companies, which are inherently risky on an individual basis. So the more investor education we can do locally, the faster our ecosystem's going to grow, the more companies that are going to get funded and produce jobs and produce revenue. And then the last thing is it's just fun, right? I mean, from a community perspective, you meet cool people, you make friends, you get out there, it's social, it's something to do, and it's really motivational. Being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster, and even at the point that we're at, it's still a roller coaster. It's there's days where we think we're the most brilliant people on earth, and there are days when we think we're the most idiotic people on earth for making a certain mistake or doing something a certain way, or just questioning the entire value proposition at times. So you need other entrepreneurs who have been through that, who are going through that, to support you, to be a sounding board, to give advice, and vice versa. These 4 things. Any way you can build these with each other, across the 2 cities, across the state, with us, do it.
Thank you so much, Dean. Coming back, for those of you that are back, if you're here for the first time, I think hopefully we'll see you next week and in the weeks to come. Several of us won't be here, but the good ones will. Don't forget to use invite@.com/1NCTUL. Thanks a lot. Have a good week.